everybody, it's Michelle down at McDougall Cottage. If you're looking for something to do this weekend, I would suggest baking. Baking is a wonderful activity because it's relaxing, you can get the kids involved, your house will smell amazing, and you'll end up with a very tasty treat at the end. So since we're coming to you from McDougall Cottage, we're going to be making shortbread today. So gather all your ingredients together. What you're going to need are 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour, 1 cup of icing sugar, a 1/2 cup of rice flour, and a pound, yes I said a pound, of butter. You'll need a bowl and a rolling pin. So let's get started. So before we get started, I've preheated the oven to 325 degrees. Now the recipe we're using here was generously donated to us by the Brody family, and this is Grandma Brody's famous shortbread. Now this is a very basic shortbread recipe. You can add things to it. You can add chocolate chips, you can add lavender, but this is the basic recipe to start with. So the first thing we're going to put in are 2¼ cups of all-purpose flour. Then you're going to add 1 cup of icing sugar. You're going to put in a 1/2 cup of rice flour. Now if you don't have rice flour at home, don't worry about it too much, because I have made shortbread crusts for various squares not using the rice flour, and it turns out absolutely fantastic. So if you don't have the rice flour on hand at this point, don't worry about it, just use a little extra flour. Now we're going to put one of the most important ingredients in shortbread into our mix, and that is butter. We're going to use a pound of butter. Now I'm going to be mixing this with my hands that I've thoroughly washed. But at home, I've often made shortbread by doing it in the food processor, just putting in all the ingredients and pulsing it, and it comes together really nicely. So whichever way you prefer will work. So now that I've mixed all of my dry ingredients together and put the butter in, what I'm going to start to do is mix them all together. And what I'm going to do is sort of crumble the butter and mix it in with the flour, because I'm going to want to end up with kind of a crumb consistency that comes together nicely when you squeeze it. So this takes a little bit of work, but it actually feels kind of neat. It's kind of very relaxing, almost like giving a massage. Okay, now I've used my hands to incorporate the butter into the dry ingredients, and it's starting to come together in a soft dough. So you want to work it until it looks like this, and then if you press on it, you can sort of see that it'll stick together and form a ball here. So that's when you know your dough is ready. Now, if you happen to be wondering who my cameraman is, it's my handsome son Josh, who happens to be home from Teachers College. I'm so glad to have him home. However, so my dough's come together nicely, and I've placed it on a floured board. I've thrown a little bit of flour on top of the dough, and I've also floured my rolling pin. So I'm going to start to gently roll out the dough until it's about a 1/4 inch thick, and then we're going to get our cookie cutters and start making some shapes. So now I've got my dough rolled out to about a 1/4 inch thickness. I'm going to go ahead and start cutting my cookies. So I've got a cookie cutter here that's quite small, but seems perfect for the shortbread that we serve here at the cottage. And just so the dough doesn't stick to the cookie cutter, I'm just going to dip it in a little bit of flour every couple times I cut a cookie. So we're going to go ahead and start cutting the cookies out and putting them on our pan here. Now I want to do them really close together because I really don't want to waste any of the dough. I want to get as much of it as I can. And then once we've cut out our cookies, what we can do is roll that dough back in together, and then we can roll it out again, and then we can use all of the dough to make our cookies. So you can use fun shapes if you want to. I'm just using plain old round cookie cutter today. If they start to stick, don't forget, just dip them in a little bit of flour, and away you go. So you notice that we've got our cookies cut out, and they are fairly close together on this baking pan where I put some parchment paper. Shortbreads don't tend to spread out a whole lot, so it's okay if you put them together pretty closely when you're baking them. Now I'm going to do something that my old nanny taught me. This is a top secret trick that I learned, and that is before you bake your shortbreads, take them on the pan and just pop them into the freezer for about 10 minutes. This will help you to make absolutely perfect shortbread. So we now have our tray of shortbread. They've been in the freezer for about 10 minutes and we're now ready to start baking them. So I'm just going to pop them into the oven. It's been preheated to 325 degrees. We're going to leave them in there for about 15 to 20 minutes or so, but we're going to keep a good eye on them because we don't want our shortbreads to turn brown. We want them to be solid, but we want them to still have a light color. A little bit of brown is okay, a lot of brown is a very bad sign. So we'll see you back in 15 minutes. So you can see our beautiful shortbreads. We've made about 3 dozen of these gorgeous buttery shortbreads. So I'm gonna have a taste of one. Why don't you let us know how your shortbreads turned out. Did you make sweet ones? Did you make savory ones? I've tasted them with lavender, I've tasted them with lemon, I've tasted butterscotch ones, I've also tasted savory ones that had a little bit of chili and garlic in them, and let me say they were all delicious. So here's to your homemade shortbreads, and here's to seeing you soon down at the cottage, and we'll be able to enjoy a nice buttery shortbread together.